You are intellectually ready to let go of things, but that doesn't mean that you're emotionally ready. All of this process, all of these things are part of what is called RTS, which is the religious trauma syndrome. This is not something that is talked about too much, so it wouldn't surprise me if you haven't heard of it. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. You don't have to record it. My name is Maria Gernand, and just a few months ago, I realized that I was no longer a believer. I was not a Christian anymore. My intention with these videos is to benefit other people who are going through a similar journey of leaving behind religion and starting a new kind of mindset. There are lots of things that are engraved in my brain because I grew up with those beliefs, I grew up with those judgments, or I grew up with those thoughts. There are certain things that even physically sometimes it's hard for me to do. And then I have to remind myself that that's not me anymore, that I'm a new person, that my thoughts are different. One of the first questions when I realized that I was no longer Christian, or when I left religion to say, was what should I believe in now? I feel like I had to have an answer for where my morality comes from and who created the world and all of this. I had this feeling that I had to figure out things and have an answer. Whenever I would come out to people and tell them I'm no longer Christian, being able to say, and this is what I believe now. And it was really hard because I grew up with this whole mindset, all of these rules, things that told me what was right and what was wrong. And now I felt bare, naked, okay, now I don't have all these clothes on, all of these things that I knew, and I have to figure out what am I gonna wear now? What is going to be my right or wrong? Realizing that there's so many different worldviews. At first I said, I don't want to believe in anything. I don't want to go back to any kind of religion or any group, and I just want to be by myself, just a human out there. Basically just started taking care of myself physically at first. I started practicing yoga and just taking care of my body and kind of loving myself again. What I came to realize is that you don't have to have an answer. You don't have to say, this is what I believe. You don't need a label. And it's sometimes hard. It is, because people are okay, you're not a Christian. What are you now? Because we're so used to that. We're so used to these labels. And we feel the pressure to be able to say, I am this. But there is nothing wrong with just saying, I am just a human. And that's it. You don't owe an explanation to anyone. Feel okay to say, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that answer. And you shouldn't feel pressure to say that. I shouldn't feel pressure to say that. And it's something that I'm still working on, something that I'm still struggling with sometimes. Being comfortable with the idea of not knowing. I really like the Emersonian idea of avoiding conformity and false consistency, to follow your instincts. In Christianity, they teach a lot that you cannot just pick and choose what you want, that the Bible is this book and you have to take it, either you like it or not. And so when you're no longer a Christian, it's hard to see things that way. You're oh no, I shouldn't be able to pick and choose, but you are able to pick and choose. And if you are just coming out of Christianity and it's being hard for you to let go of certain things, don't feel pressure to do that. You don't have to let go of anything that you're not comfortable with leaving behind yet. Don't feel I don't believe this, then I have to claim that I'm an atheist now. You don't have to. Letting go of Jesus, the person of Jesus as my companion and my best friend, was one of the hardest things. I know that religion teaches you over and over that you have to take it all or being all out. But feel free to, what's beneficial to your life right now, keep it. And if something is just there and it's not helping you, feel free to put it aside. Another big question for me was, where can I find community? And that's something that I am still struggling with. It's hard, mostly when you're an adult. It's so hard to make new friends, to find a group of people that are like-minded. It's hard now to realize that you can be part of a group and that you are probably going to think this is right and the next person is going to think that's wrong. And that's totally fine. You can still be friends and you can still be very close even when that's the case. Obviously, you're going to have some things in common, but it doesn't mean that you have to see the world in the same way or like use the same filter. So some quick like practical recommendations: you could look for a Facebook group, join the gym, or there's this app called Meetup, and usually there's a lot of things that are going on around the place where you live. You can just type your address or something, and there's going to show this like groups of people that go hiking together or go to the movies together, or like book clubs and stuff. And that has been very helpful for me. It's not gonna be easy, as I told you. I am still working on that, but it doesn't mean you're going to be alone forever. Another question for me was, what should I do on Sunday now? Because it's true, like it sounds funny, but when you grew up, since you were age 1 until you were 27, every single Sunday going to the church, then it's gonna feel weird when you don't have that anymore. Like, what do I do now? Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Or I don't know. But some things that you can do is like spend time with your family, like do something with them, something you didn't used to do, or now you'll have time to sleep in, go for a walk, or listen to a podcast that you like, take some time to read a book, something that is going to build you. I try to do things that benefit me in a spiritual way, that's something that makes me grow as a person, simply because I do feel the need to do something that will improve me. I don't know if it's because of my previous religious views or because that's just me, but I do feel drawn to do something more spiritual. Like my Sundays look more like a very slow morning, and we have a light breakfast with my family, and then we go hiking and we spend some time at the playground with our little one. It's just like a really nice slow time with my family. Then we go out for lunch and take some time for reading afterwards or watching something together. What?
Or recording a video.
Or recording these videos. So there's like different things you can do. I don't know, maybe that's the day you're gonna use to like wash your clothes or clean the house or go like bowling or like go watch a game, something. You can do anything. Like Sundays are for anything you really want to do, not for work. You get to do whatever you want. Another thing that I've struggled with coming out of religion was the situation of I don't believe this anymore, but I keep thinking about it. I don't know if you resonate with this, but I'll give you a few examples. One simple example is that I find myself often singing worship music randomly. Like I'm not even thinking about anything, and then randomly I'm worshiping. And I kind of like tell myself like, no, I don't believe in this anymore. This actually doesn't feel good. And it kind of like triggers me. Why am I singing this? But of course, I spent 27 years doing worship. Like I spent 27 years that I would listen basically only to worship music. I would listen to other things, but most of the time I would like make sure that I spend more time listening to worship music than secular music. So it totally makes sense. If you spend your whole life being told something over and over and over, it makes sense that it's just going to come out of you naturally. But that doesn't mean that there is something wrong or that maybe like you made a mistake. Don't feel afraid of those things. It just makes sense. Another example was I was sitting at Starbucks. I was just working. It was a normal day. And this man sat next to me. He didn't even talk to me or anything. And I was the one that like looked over and I was like seeing what he was working on. I was just being nosy. And I think he was just like preparing his sermon or something. I saw the Bible, and what my brain told me right away was like, Jesus is looking for you. And I felt like, oh my gosh, Jesus is looking for me. And then I was like, wait, no, I don't even believe that Jesus is alive anymore. Yes, Jesus existed, but I don't believe that he's like the Son of God. And I was like, why do I have these thoughts in my head? But of course, I grew up in church and I heard all of these testimonies of people saying how they went astray and they left the faith, but then Jesus came back for them and now they're back and they're Christians. So my brain keeps telling me, oh, this is what's gonna happen to you. Kind of like fighting yourself, reteaching yourself the things that you believe now. Like, okay, I'm not gonna go that way anymore. This is what I believe now and this is how things are gonna go. You are intellectually ready to let go of things, but that doesn't mean that you're emotionally ready, and that is totally okay. It's going to be very hard to let go of those things that you were told over and over that were shameful. You know that there's nothing wrong, but you're still going to feel a little bit of that guilt. And I know that in those moments when you realize of this fight that you're having within yourself, it's completely fair and okay to feel angry or frustrated or sad. Just give yourself the time and space to heal. Maybe talk with someone else. You can share about your experience and how you're feeling. And it's going to be completely natural and okay that you're gonna feel angry. And you're probably gonna feel angry against the people that taught you all these things. But then again, this is kind of like an inner fight, and try not to keep that resentment towards the people that raised you or the people that introduced you to the religion that you're letting go of now. When I think about my parents, and they were the ones who raised me as a Christian, now that I am a parent, I know that all of my motives to do anything that I do with my son is because I want to produce something good in him. In my mind, I think this is the best thing that I can do for him. So I'm sure that in my parents' view, teaching me about Christianity, raising me in that religion was the best thing they could have done for me. Just try to focus on the new perspective you have now. And so for people who didn't grow up with a religious agenda, if they were raised like secular or if they were raised as non-religious, it might be difficult for them to understand why you're struggling to date someone or get a new tattoo or things like that. It's totally okay for you to explain that you're retraining yourself, that you're retraining your brain and your mind and soul to be able to do all of these things without feeling guilt or without feeling ashamed. Because then again, like, you were told this over and over. You were told that it was wrong. You were told that all of this like desires or thoughts or emotions were wrong, and you were supposed to just tuck them away or like dismiss all of these things that now you've realized that it's totally okay for you to embrace. So again, take your time. There's no pressure. There is no rush. You give yourself the space that you need to recreate yourself. All of this process, all of these things are part of what it's called RTS, which is the religious trauma syndrome. And I don't know if you've heard of it or not. I know that this is not something that is talked about too much, so it wouldn't surprise me if you haven't heard of it. But it is a thing. It's what I am going through right now and what a lot of people are going through after leaving their religion. And because Christianity has such a privileged position in like the Western community, is that it's going to be hard sometimes for people to validate the RTS, to validate the religious trauma syndrome, to validate those things that you're struggling with. But they're real. I understand those feelings. Something that I am doing, I don't know if you would be interested in it, but I would encourage you to talk with someone, maybe see a counselor that can help you just walk through this. They are not gonna tell you like what to do next, but they can listen to you and understand and maybe help you detangle all of these thoughts that you might have. Be open about it, as long as you feel comfortable with it. But I feel like it might help you a lot to process it. Or you can write it, you can like write letters about it, make videos like I am doing. Try to keep your vibrations high. Stay in like a spirit of love and kindness. We're all learning everything. There's no one who's a professional on walking through life. I know there's going to be a lot of times that it's going to be hard, where you're going to have people maybe from your religion coming to you and saying very harsh words, saying very judgmental or even hateful things. Try to stay as gracious as you can. Try to stay kind and loving because this is not only going to benefit the situation, but it's also going to benefit your soul, and it might be a better way for you to get your point across. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think. Please feel free to comment below or send me a message, whatever you feel like, to let me know what you thought, if there's any questions that you might want me to talk about. I love making these videos for you guys, but I also do it for myself. This is my journey. And thank you so much to the people that keep subscribing to my channel. It's so exciting. I don't do this like super regularly, so if you want to be notified whenever I release another video, feel free to click on the little bell down there, like next to the subscription button. There's a little bell. Click on that, and then you'll get notified if I release another video.